Welcome to
Urban Beginnings.
a podcast about navigating urban planning and its impact on community. Tony, Blair, how you guys doing today?
Doing
Good,
well, doing
good.
well.
How are you guys today?
Pretty dandy.
Yeah.
Danny, the sun's out, so no more coldness here in California. But yeah, happy to be here, guys.
For sure. Glad to finally have you on. I know
Yeah.
we talked about this for some time now, and um, our schedules, and I know you're a very busy person, and networking, helping others out, and so I'm glad we finally have some time and have you here. I feel privileged.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. I mean, you guys been putting out a lot of work the last 2 years with your urban beginnings, and I want to be kind of part of it and spread some words out. And so I've been listening to a lot of your podcast episodes, and I'm kind of happy to be here too.
For sure. Yeah. I appreciate that, Tony. And then also any feedback. I know um, we have like no experience on this and we're just kind of chatting it away. So I appreciate the support. But yeah, I just can you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Sure. Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Tony Lopez. I'm an environmental planner with AECOM. I've been there for about 2.5 years now. Some of the projects that I work on there are a different range of projects ranging from energy, transportation. I'm also doing a lot of public outreach now here in Southern California. Most of my clients are state and federal clients. Again, Caltrans, state parks, Bureau of Land Management. I have about 5 years experience as an environmental planner. I had my first internship during my undergrad at Cal Poly Pomona, where I worked as an environmental technician at Ruth Villalobos and Associates. Ruth Villalobos was one of the first female chief of planning for the Army Corps of Engineers, and so she started her own firm, and I got a lot of experience with that. And yeah, so during COVID, I went to school because it was a small firm, and so I didn't really want to leave a burden on them, and so I wanted to just get my master's out of the way there. And so, I did my master's in the Netherlands, specifically in Rotterdam, which is the largest port city in Europe. I studied urban management and development there with the focus on strategic planning and policy. I did my master's thesis on tactical urbanism. Blair, I know that's one of your interests, so I'm excited to talk to you about that. So I came back home. This is when COVID kind of ended, and I worked at LSA for a bit as an environmental planner before ultimately moving to Orange County, where I live and work now with AECOM. I don't live with AECOM, but I work there. And outside of AECOM, I'm involved with the American Planning Association.
Awesome. If you don't mind, really quickly, would you tell our viewers a little bit about ACOM? Because I know it's like an urban kind of design firm, or what do they sort of specialize in?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. I always hear a lot about AECOM as a student, and it was kind of intimidating, to be honest, when I first got in it, because it is like one of the world's largest infrastructure firms. So they're widely known for, engineering, electrical, civil engineering, and, water infrastructure. And so they do have a big urban planning team, but they're not solely focused on urban planning. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm part of the environmental planning team, but I do work now closely with the building and place team, which is more of the urban planning, urban design, working on specific plans. Um, AECOM works on $1 million contracts with federal and state entities. The LA Olympics are coming up in 2028, and AECOM has a big hand on that, making sure that most of the projects are environmentally safe and the process is streamlined. Doing some public outreach with that. Um, yes, these projects are very large scale, but AECOM in general I believe is a great firm. It's a lot of collaboration there. Again, I work a lot with different departments here at AECOM. I work a lot with the engineers, biologists. Sometimes I'll go out on the field and collect some data with them. It's just a really great place to work at, and especially the office in Orange. They have a great place to work initiative there, where it's kind of like a social hub where they make sure that we're doing exercises together. I'm leading the basketball team on Monday and Thursdays, where we play basketball pickup games. We have a soccer team. We just went to golf last week. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed my time at AECOM.
Word. Man, well, it sounds like a cool job, and I from what I've heard and our conversations, it seems like they're very supportive, and hopefully they can continue letting you be you in this whole planning work, because you have such a great soul, and you have a very interesting and very cool perspective in planning, and I know you're all about, like, the people, community, and so hopefully, um well, not hopefully, I know the AECOM is allowing you to do all that, and so it's always good to hear a supportive workplace. Tony, I wanted to congratulate you on your APA award, the Distinguished Contribution Award. Um, can you tell us a little bit about this award, and also if you know who nominated you and how kind of that process works?
Yeah, sure. Thanks again for these kind words, Rogelio. I could say the same about you and Blair, about your passion in planning and all the, nonprofit effort that you guys do here to spread the word of planning. So yeah, I can talk about the APA award. As you mentioned, it's the contribution award. They give out two of these. One's like kind of a long-term dedication to the APA California section, and one's for a limited time, maybe 2 to 3 years, which is the one I got. Yeah, maybe I'll start from the back with my involvement with the APA. I started volunteering as a student, as a university liaison at my time with Cal Poly, where I helped out the Inland Empire section, which I am currently serving on the board with still. Yeah, so I was leading the Young and Emerging Planners group there, which my efforts there kind of led me to this award. I believe Jonathan Pacheco Bell and Miguel Vasquez had nominated me for this award since they had, kind of collaborated with me with the work that we've been doing with students in Southern California. But yeah, so my efforts there kind of spawns with the notion that a lot of students didn't really have, the physical connection due to COVID, obviously for obvious reasons. And so they missed out on maybe 2 to 3 years of, the physical connection of being a student and meeting your network and meeting mentors. Because I know my time as a student, I volunteer a lot of my time meeting my mentors. Again, some of my first mentors in school were Miguel Vasquez and James Rojas. And, we had lunches together, talked about a lot of our, similar interests and some of my work assignments. And so, yeah, I just want to give back to the planning students right after COVID. And when I came back from Europe, so I came back with the Inland Empire sections and asked if they needed help with, kind of rejuvenating the emerging planners group. I know they've been a bit inactive. I knew the state conference was going to be a year from that. And so I thought it'd be a perfect opportunity for me to, gain some more leadership skills and, increase my networkship. So from there, I set out a goal because, as you guys know, the Inland Empire is very huge in size. You have Riverside County and San Bernardino County. Both these counties are projected to be the fastest growing counties in the country. You see a lot of growth out in Eastvale, Chino Hills, a lot of cities in the Inland Empire, Riverside. And so I sought out to have mixers, social mixers for students and our members in all parts of Inland Empire. So we had, our kickoff events in Ontario, Riverside, which is where kind of like most of our members congregate and work. Um, then we had one in the Coachella Valley. We had one in Eastern Riverside County in Temecula. We even had one in the high desert in Hesperia. And these social mixers were really, really well attended. We had a lot of students and even early stage professionals come out, as well as, senior planners and planning commissioners. So it was a great mixer. Students got to talk to, higher level professionals, and higher level professionals got a chance to mentor students. And so that was one of the main contributions that I did last year, was the social mixers, letting students know that the APA is a resource for them. Another one of our contributions last year was the community college symposium. So I had a lot of help with this one. So I want to give a quick shout out to Cassie Vickers, Jonathan Pacheco Bell, Gwen Yuri, Mark Selleck from the Riverside Community College. So Enrique Garcia. So Enrique Garcia had reached out to me. He was the Young and Emerging Planner Coordinator for the state chapter. He had reached out to me with an idea of having an event with Riverside Community College. And so we teamed up and coordinated with Mark Selleck, the professor of political science there, and we held a symposium there where we had three emerging planners, including myself, Cassie Vickers, and Enrique, kind of sharing our planning journey, what got us into planning. And then we also invited UC San Diego's planning program to give, a 30-minute overview of their planning program so that community college students can learn about planning. Because a little backstory, that's how I got into planning. Right after high school, I went to community college, and then from there, I got lucky where my community college professor who was teaching GIS had taught me about planning. And she told me, hey, you might actually like planning if you like maps and history and politics. Like there's an actual degree for you, and it's actually down the street at Cal Poly Pomona. It's a perfect setup for you. And so I give a lot of credit to that professor. Her name is Daphne Golden. She's with Mount San Antonio College. And so, yeah, so one of the big interests for my nonprofit efforts, it was giving back to community colleges. So we did 3 events, and we're looking forward to do one more at a community college in Loma Linda, or sorry, Yucaipa. I forgot the name of the community college, but that's one of our next events there, with the same format of having, young planners give an overview, and then having colleges, university programs come out there and talk to the students to let them know what planning is and the kind of the job outlook. And then one of the last contributions that I had a hand with was resume workshops and interview workshops with Cal Poly Pomona. Again, that's where my alumni is at. And so I remember attending one of the interview workshops, and I thought it was a really great exercise to, beef up your resume. And so, yeah, that's kind of what led me to this award. And we're continuing that momentum with the state conference that we just had in Riverside. We had a great student day there. We included, or incorporated the buddy program, which is now being implemented with this national conference in Denver this year. So if you're going to be at the Denver National Conference, look out the buddy program. It's the same concept that we did in Riverside Conference. So it's a great chance to meet planners and a national scale. So yeah, that's pretty much how I got that award.
For sure. Yeah, I participated in that buddy program and it was great, Tony. So I think that was a great idea. I got to meet someone from Skag, and we chatted it up, and it was we linked up in on LinkedIn, and so now we're I have a new contact. So that program was pretty cool. um,
It's great to hear.
yeah.
Hey, Tony. So you mentioned connecting students with, APA resources, which are pretty abundant. How do folks get involved with their local chapter of APA? And are there any barriers to access, whether it's like financial or experience? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. As a student, I had this notion about APA being, very formal. So, it's a very traditional planning organization. So I was very hesitant to get involved, but it was just the act of getting out of my comfort zone and reaching out to them directly to get involved, which kind of skyrocketed my, network. And so there's not really a financial restriction for students, because you do get a lot of discounts, and students do get a free membership as long as they're in a planning program, I believe. Or I think just any type of student can get a free membership, and then you get discounts at the conference. You get, again, free resources, um, with the Young Emerging Planners Group offering, resume workshops, interview workshops, and these are usually free. How to get involved with the APA again? So you have the California chapter, and you have, I believe it's 7 or 8 sections, which mostly comprise of counties. So obviously, that Inland Empire has 2 counties. Orange County section is obviously Orange County, and you have the LA County section. And each section does have a Young and Emerging Planners committee slash professional development chair that you can reach out to. I know that most of the sections are very active on LinkedIn, on Instagram. um, I know I had some students had an issue about, like, emailing the APA email on their website. So I recommend just reaching out to someone on LinkedIn that, you know, is part of the APA, or even reaching out to me, and I'm more than happy to connect you with that section leader. But yeah, it just takes that step out of your comfort zone and just wanting to, network and take a lot of leadership experience for that.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. I really appreciate you providing that information. I think for me, as somebody that was entering planning a little bit later in my life, even when I was in school, it was mentioned a little bit, but yeah, it was something that I had to kind of research on my own, and so it was a little bit confusing, and I also, like, perceived it as a very, like, formal entity, and so I haven't really made that jump yet, but you have convinced me, so thank you.
Right, yeah, I think that's one of the main issues that I kinda dealt with too as a student, was that kind of bridge between the professional organization that's kind of intimidating. And so with the Inland Empire section, we kind of made it a goal where we kind of reach out to the universities and community colleges, and we provide them kind of the resources and, digital communications now, which I'm sure we'll be talking about in a bit. Um, just just, making sure that the students know that we're a free entity, nonprofit organization, willing to offer them credible resources and pipeline for, future leadership with their roles. Because I've met a lot of students that, for example, Cassie Vickers, she was a student help volunteer for me when I was a Young Emerging Planners group, and she's now the chair for that Young Emerging Planners group, and she just got a new job in the Inland Empire section through this volunteering experience that she has, and she's been doing a great job, and she's a well-known presence now in Riverside.
Awesome. Thank you.
I feel like I'll be name dropping a lot.
It's all good. Oh, wow. So, Tony, let's and Blair, should we talk a little bit about? Well, I guess we can touch about tactical urbanism while we kind of introduce our public spaces project
Mhm.
that we will be working on collaboratively. Um, so yeah, I know we had kind of teased it a little bit, Tony and Blair and a few other colegas or colleagues. um, we kind of put a little team together into researching public spaces, which we are still trying to define. Um, and I guess the main goal of our research project was or is to to help or research that will create some sort of tool or a hub to help anybody really audit or look at public spaces and through a different lens that will help them kind of look at the social equity, look at things of or sorry sorry Tony, you make me all nervous here, but um, essentially we want to create some research that can help look at help people look at public spaces through a different lens to kind of essentially like audit their place and look at it through different elements that we're still working on. But essentially, we kind of created this group so we can all kind of work on something that we're interested in and learn from each other. And when I say work on something that we're interested in, for example, I'm interested in like doing um, doing some research analysis. So I'll be looking at tools on what can benefit our research from, what type of tools can benefit our research from, so we can do some analysis, and that way I can kind of stay sharp for my personal knowledge and also at work, and then also just creating some sort of again tool, or I guess the products that I know Tony you'll talk about um, would be like, for example, a video essay or a photo essay, and just kind of sharpen those or get into our creative um, uh, senses, right? I don't know if you guys want to touch on it a little bit more. I know I just talked a lot right now, but please chime in.
No, that's great. I mean, I would say, we're doing like a pretty deep dive, right, if you will, into the dynamic nature of public space, right, and the interconnected systems that are at play. And I think what I'm really excited about and that I hope will come to fruition is that, you know, we're hoping that this toolkit will be realized so that it can be used across diverse public space typologies, which I think is really important, right? When we talk about public
Mhm.
space. And so for me, that's something I'm super excited about. And I think one thing I did want to mention, not to put everyone on the spot here, but as we've kind of just been in the initial phases of sort of looking at like the different elements that this toolkit really needs to embody, we haven't talked extensively about like our audience per se. And so, I think maybe that's a good kind of way to get into talking about tactical urbanism a little bit. Like, I think
Mhm.
when I went into this, I was thinking about this being a tool for community members, to be able to, use this, whether it's like a nonprofit group or an independent advocacy group or a larger public entity, even. I think that, it needs to be dynamic in nature, but also easy to use. And so I think as we kind of go through this process, yeah, some interesting things. We'll probably uncover some pretty interesting things and have to make some possibly tough decisions about just, what will work across all of these different typologies, right?
Right. Yeah, and I really appreciate you bringing up, audience with this project and tactical urbanism. Um, I think that's kind of the main goal, right? In tactical urbanism is, co-production, having a shared knowledge, having a shared vision with the user, with the developer, with the social hub. And so at my time at Netherlands, that was what my research actually focused on, the motivation between the residents, the motivation between the social institutions, the government agencies, and obviously the developer. Um, and down here in Los Angeles, we have two very amazing concepts here. We have what embedded planning with Jonathan Pacheco Bell, and we have the Place It workshops with James Rojas. I've been collaborating with a lot with them recently over the years, and that's kind of the main purpose of tactical urbanism. I had this saying where every single human being is a planner, right? We all have this ideal downtown, this ideal neighborhood inside of our heart, but as professional planners, it's our job to kind of get them to realize that and make those neighborhoods come out. And so I think with this embedded planning proxy and the place it and other, very hybrid planning processes, not just from the top to bottom, but more of a hybrid approach, really does convey that message of, you're creating products with the shared shared vision now, and you're very much, you know, aligning your visions together and co-producing for public space.
Yeah, I love that. I think, one thing that I've sort of started to highlight as sort of a byproduct of tactical urbanism is sort of community healing. And so Rogelio and I actually did a project that was sort of like a pretty deep analysis of different engagement approaches. And we looked at like healing centered engagement to really get to the heart of, really systemic problems that exist. But I think inherently a byproduct of tactical urbanism is, co-creation, community healing, and those are all huge, huge benefits.
Mhm. And just adding on to that, kind of the role of planners and the ethics of planning is, just facilitating the decision process and all the entitlement processes. So you do have tactical urbanism being, a very low cost, short term implementation tool, but it's also a great, experiment to see if some stuff might work or might not work. Um, so yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's really
and I
go ahead.
think to add to that, Tony, it's much more than just an experiment. It's also an opportunity for whoever in that neighborhood or whatever block it is, or to whatever scale it is, to practice or really show their creativity, which they can show, like, culture. Like, I know when we did the student day, I helped out with some of the tactical urbanism workshops,
Mhm,
and it's very colorful. I know there's a lot of examples of tactical urbanism, but I think um, with the tactical urbanism and collaboration components of things, it can really show um, what that area or those people like a sense of culture, or even um, it can also be like art in these things. And so, like, for
mhm,
example, I know in near West Adams, Pico and Hauser, they had I don't know if SCAG actually worked on this one, but they they closed the parking lane, and they kinda extended the corner, the crosswalk,
Right.
but they put, like, these plastic little boulders, and then they paint it, and so they did, like, a mural on the floor. Well, I'm not sure if it's called a mural on the floor, but they did some art on the floor, and it really showed a lot that people maybe in the area or neighborhood can identify with. And so that's kind of what I like about, or I kind of see tactical urbanism also being a plus when it's brought in or introduced to a community.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the main important parts. How you mentioned Rogelio, the conference was a great example. Even for myself, that was kind of a new experience of implementing it and actually implementing it and is not doing some kind of educational thesis. But I think that's kind of where the magic is
Mhm.
too, right? Like SCAG was involved, APA nonprofit was involved, the students in the community were involved, and the city of Riverside were involved. And so just, having those recurring meetings, hearing different thought processes and what the main goal and vision was. That's
Mhm.
kind of what it really interests me, to get to be able to see the motivation from different types of stakeholders and having, tactical urbanism again as a low cost intervention. You kind of force these discussions and coordination at a very smaller level, um, but without a doubt, you're still doing a lot of stakeholder engagement.
Yeah,
And
for sure. But yeah.
I don't know if anybody has any insight on into this, and it's like there's no right or wrong answer, but in my experience, and you've probably experienced this as well,
Mhm,
and I predominantly work with, like, traffic engineers, but when folks start to talk about tactical urbanism, um, it makes them uncomfortable.
mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think again, with this was a notion about what they also call tactical urbanism, guerrilla planning,
Mhm.
DIY planning, and so I get that a lot too, especially here in California. Not so much in Europe, but I do see a great trend rising up with tactical urbanism and more you know co-production processes and planning, kind of straying away from the traditional planning concepts, but focusing more on again community engagement, physical interaction, connections and all these, new topics coming out, planning are kind of helping streamline that. Where just because it's a new planning concept doesn't mean it's scary or it's a big change. The world's very connected now, especially the digital age, where you can learn about how a city does something different compared to another city, and so you kind of bring that new perspective. And yeah, change is always going to be scary. But yeah, I do see that a lot, Blair.
Yeah, I think we all do, and, um, yeah, yeah, thanks. Thanks for that.
Yeah. I've heard about, when I came back from the APA conference, and I was telling some folks back here about tactical urbanism, and they're like, you know, it's just it's sometimes like what Blair was like mentioning, it's some people just don't, like, they get kind of, I don't know what's the right word, but they just, I guess they get hurt. And it's like, just be open, and like, it's like also like with the community land trust model. It's something newer. Well, it's been happening for a long time, but it's becoming more popular. And they're always talking about, oh, well, you're trying to combat gentrification, but in reality, you're like trying to hold the same people in the area, right? And it's like, oh, like sometimes when I hear these comments, I'm like, wow, like you really, like, it's kind of sad that,
Mhm.
everyone's entitled to their opinion, right? But um there's a lot more, or that's just, I guess, the lack of education, or there's some ignorance in there,
Right.
that maybe these new concepts can really benefit these communities in the long run, and even sometimes quicker than the actual local jurisdiction or whatever jurisdiction they're under.
All right.
But yeah.
Yeah, maybe
And I
touching
mean,
back on our go ahead.
no, go
Mhm.
ahead.
I was gonna mention kind of the product, maybe talk about that a bit since, you make a great point about kind of the education and making sure that there's, a pipeline of understanding of different concepts, which was kind of our main objective, right, with this. We don't have a name for it yet, but we're still working on that, but it'll, pretty much be a toolkit where you can conceptualize different topics and concepts with videos, with photos, and also text. I know the United Nations, they have a planning toolkit that kind of provides, common themes of climate action, participation, urban finance, and how to, assess it, plan it, um, how to make it operational, and then implementation. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here, but with auditing public spaces, kind to see how to identify what a planning or what a park has in terms of inventory and what they're lacking, opportunities, what it can do, and then obviously having some sort of spatial analysis at these parks where we can start beginning to think about, okay, like this is how you kind of understand and audit a park, but why are you auditing that park? Like, is there a specific concept
Mhm.
in planning that you kind of want to see here that maybe increases accessibility or cultural significance?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
the you know the general public should be able to understand all these planning, buzzwords and concepts. I mean, all my friends and family know about planning now through TikTok, Instagram. I hear a lot of, success stories of students listening to, podcasts from your guys' podcast, from Urban Planning is Not Boring podcast. There's just a lot
Yeah.
of content being put out there. And so I think it's important to have a toolkit where kind of summarizes all these ideas into one shared space where people can, access and see for themselves.
Mhm. Yeah, Blair, I think you were gonna say something.
I actually Tony kind of touched on it a little bit, but as we talk about tactical urbanism and engagement and all of these things, I just keep thinking to myself that the toolkit will be successful if it's participatory, right? And so
Hmm.
at the heart of it, it can bring people together to
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think, like the place it model or the place it from James Rojas is so successful. It's so interactive. People can really connect with it. People can really share their stories, maybe through small conversations that can become greater stories. Um, and so I know, I Tony and Blair, I think we haven't really talked about, like, I think we're thinking about doing case study parks and
Hmm.
different regions. Um, Sorry about that. Different regions, Northern California, maybe Central Valley, Los Angeles, and Santa Ana. Um, and so I know we've briefly discussed, and it's this is the beauty about this whole project, and I think we have such a great team because um, just the ideas we shoot every every week we meet. It's so interesting because and again, I think, sorry, and we'll have a. I didn't tell you guys this, but I think our next episode we're gonna bring in the whole team so they can share their perspective, their wants, and what their vision is with this project.
Hmm.
And but sorry, going back, I think when we share all these perspectives, and the whole collaboration is so beautiful because it might feel sometimes like, oh, like hearing someone's perspective, like we feel stuck and we're not moving, but in reality we're just like building a bigger um
All right.
a beast, for a lack of better
Yeah.
word, and so uh
It's like the
I think
Zodiac
that's
Pokemon, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Zodiac, the 5 pieces coming together.
oh yeah. And I think we can kind of touch a little bit on our framework. We're looking at inclusivity, social interaction, or excuse me, inclusivity, accessibility, cultural significance, green space, public health, and there's a lot that actually can fall into these things. Like, for example, economic development of a place, the safety, just kind of the common things. But I know through our conversations, like there are so many things that we want to look at, and I think that's the challenging part is how do we define it so we can move to the next step of this project. But yeah, those are just kind of, I just want to bring that up. And then also, Tony, I know you haven't talked about it, but um you know can you touch on a little bit about, or what is UrbanStrat? I just want to make sure to give UrbanStrat a shout out, and what it really means, and
Sh-
what it actually means to you.
Sure. Thanks, Rogelio. Yeah. So Urban Strat, I've been trying to work on this for maybe 2 years now, and I've been kind of quite busy a lot with the APA and work. But it's always been a side side burner. Is that the phrase? Um, so yeah, Urban Strat, kind of how you mentioned, Rogelio, about the product that we're working together is bringing kind of some sort of beats together, right? So that's kind of my whole purpose in all this nonprofit and profit kind of planning world is knowledge sharing, right? Just bringing a lot of different people from different perspectives into an understanding of how people see things. Because again, I went to Rotterdam where it was an international program about, I think, 80 different countries, and I learned so much from different people around the different globe, and how kind of their thought process in planning kind of differed or intersected with the United States planning. So urban strat, I think is Dutch for street, and strat in American is short for strategy, urban strategy, right? And so kind of the concept here is kind of creating a medium where you're kind of doing a lot of on the ground street marketing on different tactical urbanism topics. Just it's still forming. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna become a firm one day or if it's gonna be some sort of social media thing or an online medium for planning. Um, I'm still working on that, but yeah, right now, just some sort of media company where I'm doing I bought a new camera, and I've been taking a lot of photos, learning how to take photos, and, making a lot of content, which I have been doing already with the APA, and so I just thought, "Okay, maybe I should start just making, content about urban planning concepts that are, you know, like, understandable by the general public and in a creative way where people can just, watch a video or listen to a podcast." And so, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just still forming. I mean, I like to collaborate with different groups, and so it's hard to say what it is, but to put it down in a simple
Yeah.
term, it's just like a media outlet right now.
Well, whatever it becomes, I'm sure it's going to be successful.
Thanks.
I second that.
I had a whole business plan last year or 2 years ago, and I mean, I'm starting to get back into it now. I'm having a buddy help me with some apps and stuff, and I mean, I have you guys helping me, with kind of your marketing and media that you guys do, and then you have, Elizabeth and Giancarlo with their outlets with was it
Mhm.
Urbana?
Oh, Ortopedia
Ortopeda
Urbana.
Urbana, yeah, and all these great initiatives out there. Um, knowledge sharing is the general theme with all of us, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I when you talked about urban strat to me, I was like, oh my god, because I know in conversations that we had when we first met, um, I don't we met for we've known each other for a while now, but um, you I remember one time you stopped me. You're like, "Oh, like, can I share something with you?" And then you kind of shared urban strat, and you were just kind of giving me your big vision about it. Because we had conversations about like we creating some sort of space where like we can share kind of what we do already. Um, I know urban strat's not really active, but other social media pages and
Mhm.
um, we kind of share each other's work or career opportunities or some sort of new concept or topic. And so, but I think I think it can lead into something bigger. So I'm excited to see what you got cooking.
Yeah, I got kinda thrown off when he asked because I totally forgot about it, but, yeah, so
Yeah,
the
you
whole
can't forget about it.
yeah, I know, it's always I always put it I should focus on it, but, yeah, I think he with UrbanStrat, I think the kind of their whole reasoning behind it, was to address a general issue in planning, the disconnect of current networks, which is what I've been trying to achieve with APAs, creating lasting networks either with other nonprofits with APA, if it's with universities, community colleges with the APA, and connecting individuals such as students and senior planners together. And so I've just been practicing a lot with social capital building and knowledge sharing because that's what I studied. And so I use my kind of my nonprofit outlet of achieving this. And so, with the current network disconnection, this can lead to lack of collaboration. This can lead to a lack of guidance and engagement due to what we're talking about, the lack of understanding, urban spaces and urban processes. So I guess the concept of urban strat is, just analyze, no, not analyzing, but understanding that the expert, the planning technical expert with the process, and then also the citizen. So just combining the expert, the process, and the citizen to knowledge share and collaborate so that we can address wicked problems. Traditional urban planning can contribute to the emergence of wicked problems again due to the disconnect of networks. And so this urban strat is more of a response to this. I see urban planning heading to a different trajectory, kind of away from traditional planning and more again, we mentioned the hybrid approach. And so I hopefully one day this urban strat thing might come to life, and it's still in its conceptual stage.
Well, we're rooting for you.
Thanks.
Can I get a T? Can I get a O? Can I get an N? Can I get a Y? Tony.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, Tony, I know. I don't know. Like, I know I'm so eager to talk more about this project, but I would like to have all the other members uh,
Mhm.
with us, so maybe we can dive in more about on this project. I know I was a little nervous at the beginning, so I apologize to the listeners, but um, yeah, essentially, we want to create a tool that helps people audit, assess, public spaces, and also providing that information on how you know like how they can make a space better, or where, like, essentially, like, for me, what I'm interested in is helping people assess a public space and knowing, like, let's say, hey, like, at night we're lacking light, or we're lacking just, I guess, like, culture here, right?
Mhm.
And so, like, maybe sharing the case studies while we're doing this whole research paper as well, because we're looking at doing a literature review, looking at case studies, um, doing some actual field work, us going out there, and then the whole tool development, and at the end, finally the recommendations, and possibly a website where we're gonna create as a hub, or be a hub, right, Tony and Blair? So I know I know Blair and I, like, when we first started this, like, we have so many ideas, and I feel like now that we have more people on the table, like, we can it'll help us, uh, like, share all our, like,
Mhm.
share everything. And so, yeah, I'm just so excited. So hopefully our next episode we can have everybody join and we can talk about it more.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I think everybody speaks about it a little differently and everybody comes from different experiences. And so, yeah, I think it would be interesting to have everybody together to kind of share what it means to them, what they hope to get out
Mm.
of it. And yeah, and I appreciate what you said too, where, we started Urban Beginnings and we really put like everything on the table, right? We were like, let's just keep generating ideas. I was a little nervous about having like a really robust team, but we are communicative, passionate. And I think just so eager and really understand how critical this work is and how this tool could really, be something helpful, accessible, and that hopefully it does have a feedback loop at the end, right? Hoping that other people can help with future iterations and it can develop further and just become stronger. So yeah, super excited. Excited to have everyone on. Excited to talk to you today, Tony. You have done remarkable work. It was great to hear a little bit more about your background and your history and what led you to be our best friend.
Oh no, no. I was
Yeah.
curious to see how who nominated him, because I know you can self-nominate for that award.
Oh, interesting.
Uh-huh. I'm not a
No, but
self-nominate.
uh, all jokes aside, um, when he got the award, he sent me a picture, and he was like, "Oh, for our mommies," and so I know that's a connection me and Tony have, and yeah, Tony, do you want to share your social medias and or where can people find you?
Yeah.
Sure, I know I have a really, really common name, especially in LA, but you can find me on LinkedIn, Tony Lopez, and maybe AECOM. And then you could also find me on Instagram on Why Not Lala. So that's Tony backwards, YNOT, and then LALA. And then I also kind of started the UrbanStrat Instagram, which is
Cool.
I think it's urban_strat. Let me double check real quick. It should be that. Oh no, it's underscore
It's
urban strat. Yeah, but you can just
sure.
follow you can
I
follow
know you've
my
been sharing
personal
some of your.
Instagram, it's fine. And then you can obviously follow your local sections. Um, just on Instagram, they're very active. Each of the sections, even on LinkedIn, where they provide a lot of opportunities for planners. So be sure to search them on Instagram and follow them.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Blair.
Yeah. Thank you both.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Keep doing the work, keep showing up, keep being awesome.
And like always, sending you good vibes.